Okay, all right. Well, hello and welcome to I guess welcome back to school and I appreciate everyone's flexibility in in meeting online today. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you had a good spring break. My spring break was spent just mostly resting. Yeah, at the end of last quarter, I got really, really sick. It was like the most sick I've ever been in my entire life. I ended up in the hospital with pneumonia. That had never happened before, and I was in the hospital for a few days. And it all happened like during finals week. And so yeah, I had to ask my TAs to proctor my finals for me and things like that. And yeah, I spent spring break just kind of resting and recovering and now I'm like behind on getting all of my class stuff ready. So I know the syllabus isn't up yet, but I'm working on that and I'll get that up soon. And again, I appreciate your flexibility in meeting online for this first week. Still kind of recovering, doing a lot better than I was before, but my lung function and my lung capacity is not what it used to be, and so I get winded real easily and things like that. So, hopefully things will start to return back to normal or at least close to normal. So, but anyway, here we are. This is Stats 15. I think Introduction to Data Science. Yeah, welcome to spring quarter. It's the last day of March. It's going to be April. I feel like the months just keep flying by. Anyway, yeah. Oh, so this slide just says, my name is Miles Chen. And that is, yeah, that's my name. You are welcome to call me Miles by my first name. That is fine. But if that feels a little awkward or strange to you, you can call me Professor Chen, Dr. Chen, whatever you want. That's fine as well. Okay. Um, I kind of hate that I put this slide in, but it is the truth. It is something I've kind of just have to face the reality about myself, and that is I'm not good at email. I'm bad at email in that I'm not trying to ignore students or anything like that, but I take a long time to respond. So to kind of make up for that, I hold what I think is a lot of office hours. I have office hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as well as Saturday. And that's just going to be kind of a better way to get a hold of me. So if you need an extension for your homework or something like that, or some kind of accommodation, I would say come to office hours and we'll have a quick chat and I can take care of whatever it is you need right away. If you want privacy, I can set up a breakout room and things like that. I'll have in-person office hours on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then I guess Mondays and Wednesdays will be both in person and on Zoom, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays will be Zoom only, and Saturdays are also Zoom only. Um, if you have questions about your homework or questions about, why something isn't working on your computer, I can also help you out during office hours as well. And also, I will set up a CampusWire forum, which is going to be kind of like an online discussion board, and you can post your questions there, and your classmates can answer, and things like that. Okay, so that's that. Of course, you can still email me, but the response might take a while. Just need to give you a heads up. Um, our textbook that we're going to be using is called Modern Data Science with R, the second edition. You can buy it at the bookstore, but you don't have to. You can read it for free in your browser. This is from the authors and publisher themselves, so it's not like this is not some illegal version where somebody has posted the content of the book, but this is put forth by the publishers and author themselves or the authors themselves regarding the book. So you can read it. You just have to read it in your browser, but it's all the same content. And in my opinion, it's a very good book. Okay. This is the planned grade breakdown. I will provide a little bit more detail regarding this. But this is what I have planned for now. And and I'll talk about homework and data camp and things like that. So, uh, please make sure your email address on the roster is correct, okay? Because later today or tomorrow, I will send out invitations to a website called Data Camp. So, Data Camp is it's normally a subscription website where, you have to pay, I think, around $30 a month, maybe even more, to get access to these coding tutorials. And in my opinion, it's a very good resource and worth the money. But they offer free subscriptions to students if you're signed up for a class that uses it. And so I'm going to try to get some active licenses, and I will email those licenses out to the email addresses on the class roster. But because it is kind of a paid product, they don't want me to just email random people. So, um, basically, make sure your email address on the roster is correct because that is the email that will be invited, and you have to create an account with DataCamp using that email address. Um, and uh, and once I send that license out, that's it. I can't uh, I can't like give you another one if you're like, oh, I used the wrong email or something like that. So make sure the email address on your roster is correct. But anyway, that's going to be data camp, and I'll assign some homework assignments that way. And then there will also have some traditional homework assignments that I will post on Brew and Learn, and you'll download and respond to those. Um, there will be one exam. Um, I don't want to call it the midterm or a final, but it's just an exam. Um, the final is going to be a group project, and I will talk about that in the coming weeks. But that's going to be the kind of the big thing in the class. Okay, the kind of the final assessment, and then I also have what we call lecture viewing quizzes, which is what I use instead of attendance. Okay, grade cutoffs I use a straight scale, and um, it usually works out pretty well with about around half or more of the class getting an A or A minus, something around there. Okay, I don't take traditional assignment attendance, but students are required to watch the lectures. And so the viewing of the lectures is going to be enforced through what I call a lecture viewing quiz. And this has worked well enough in the past. It's not a foolproof method, but basically, uh, you'll see on Brew and Learn, there is this thing under the module. It says the week one Monday lecture viewing quiz, and it basically consists of a few multiple choice questions that really have no kind of context. And during the lecture, like right now, I'm going to say, okay, question one, the answer is the letter D, D as in dog. Okay, and you'll click that, and I will give you the answers to questions two and three a little bit later, and that's how you will respond. And this is kind of be how I check to make sure you kind of either attended lecture or at least watched the video. So, if you can't attend lecture, and this is kind of, please don't come to class if you're sick. Nobody likes sitting next to somebody who's coughing the whole time, or, certainly nobody else wants to get sick. So don't come to class if you're sick. I record every one of my lectures, and I will post videos of the lecture online. And so, if you can't attend class live, you can watch the video recording, and when you watch the video recording, you'll hear me say, "All right, question number one, the answer is D," and you select that, and you respond. Okay. The lecture quizzes do close before the next lecture. So this first quiz will close before Wednesday morning. So our next lecture is Wednesday at 10 a.m. And so the view quiz will close before Wednesday at 10. So make sure you do watch the lecture and you respond to the quiz before it closes. Okay. And please also make sure you click the correct responses. Um, if you email me and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong button," that's it. I probably won't even respond, but it's just, yeah, be careful and make sure you click the correct button. Okay? And treat this like a quiz, if somebody said, "Hey, what's the answers to the quiz?" You would say, I can't tell you. That's cheating. And this it seems silly just because it's like a lecture view quiz and whatnot, but just, treat it like a quiz. You're not doing your classmates any favors by giving them the answers. Okay, all they have to do is watch the video and respond that way. Okay. Um, anyway, let's talk about this class. This class is Stats 15, Introduction to Data Science. A couple heads ups, okay? If you already received credit for an introductory statistics course like Stats 10 or Stats 13, or even AP Statistics, um, I don't think you can receive credit for this class, okay? So, um, if you've already received credit for Stats 10, Stats 13, and I want to say AP Statistics as well, you cannot also receive credit for this class. And in my opinion, it is significantly different from those classes, but that's how it's coded in the registrar system. So just want to give you a heads up that if that sounds like you probably want to double check and make sure this is the right class. There's a question. Go ahead and um, ask your question, Rohan.
Yeah, hi. If we're taking this class as a GE
I'm
and
so sorry. Can you speak up a little bit?
oh yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So if we're taking this course as a GE class
Uh-huh.
instead of like what to get like credit for like a stats towards like a stats major,
Yeah.
do you think it counts for that?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it fulfills the GE requirements for I forget, basically like I forget what it counts as, but yes, I'm pretty sure it does count as that. You might want to check and with an academic counselor just to be sure. But I'm pretty sure this does fulfill GE requirements. It's just you cannot get credit for this and say Stats 10, or if you've already taken Stats 10 or something, and that's in your kind of GE credits, that you cannot take that class and this class and receive credit for both.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Um, so yeah, that's a heads up for Stats 15. And this is introduction to data science. In my opinion, it's a lot of fun, and I love teaching this class. Uh, but yeah, it's sometimes it does not align with students' expectations of what the class is. So I guess yeah, want to whoops provide a heads up there. How do I do this? Okay. So, um, what is data science? So this is, I just copied and pasted this from Wikipedia. It says data science is an interdisciplinary field that uses scientific methods, processes, algorithms, and systems to extract knowledge and insights from noisy, structured, and unstructured data and apply knowledge and actionable insights from data across a broad range of application domains. Okay, so that's like kind of a big, long definition. It's a good definition, but maybe a little overly complicated. Um, and perhaps a more concise thing that comes from our textbook is this quote that says, "Information is what we want, but data is what we've got." Okay, and and I would just say, kind of broadly, data science and I would include also the subject of statistics is all about finding insight and meaning from data. Okay, we kind of live in this. Right now, I would say we're living in this golden age of data where we have access to so much data. Data is available for all kinds of things. The flip side of that is perhaps we're also in a dark age of privacy, and I'm not sure if we will ever reclaim privacy in the way that we used to have it, because pretty much all of your spending is tracked. Everything you do online is being tracked. And sure, we can use different browsers and things like that try to kind of cover up our tracks, but every app you open, everything you download on your phone, somebody is kind of logging it and saying, yeah, oh, this person looked at this advertisement for a few seconds and therefore or they visited this website, so let's give them more advertisements. They clicked this person's profile page, so let's give them more content that looks like that and things like that. And the quote, algorithms are listening and, you have TikTok and it gives you stuff that you like. And that's because the algorithms are learning or, Instagram, whatever it might be. YouTube, it just says like, oh, you watch these videos, you watched things like that. Let's give you more of that kind of stuff. Um, and yeah, all of this, we're generating so much data, and companies in every sector, not just tech, but finance, health, government, entertainment, everything. They are collecting data and using that data to analyze and make decisions and things like that. And the reason why is because when they use the data to make decisions, those decisions are a lot more reliable than just trying to go off of gut feelings or tradition and intuition and things like that. Okay. Um, People are now kind of catching on to this. And so now you'll hear, in my opinion, charlatans online saying, "Oh, this is what the data says," and and they act like they know what they're talking about. But I don't know. Is that really what the data says? I'm not so sure, but people now are saying like, "Oh, this is what the data says." I'm just telling you what the data says, because people are starting to recognize that when you say the data says this, that carries authority. Okay, um, but uh, but yeah, is that really what the data says? Um, and if you yourself cannot understand and draw insight from the data, you might fall prey to somebody who claims to know what the data is saying. So it is, in my opinion, it is very important to gain data literacy. Okay. Yeah, it used to be just the ability to read was a rare thing. And so people would abuse that. And somebody would say, oh, I have read these scriptures, and this is what the scripture says. So listen to me. And we're kind of, a few centuries later, we're at a point where it says, "Oh, I have seen the data, and this is what the data says. So listen to me." But not everyone speaks the truth. So I believe it's important that you yourself have the ability to look at data and understand and learn from it because yeah, it's important. Okay. Now, what is data science versus statistics? At UCLA, we have the statistics and data science major. We also have the data theory major. And a lot of different departments offer data related things. You have business analytics, you have data science engineering, you have this and that. And what is all of that? What's the difference between all of these things? Some people, like statisticians, will say, "Oh, data science is not really a new field, but it's just kind of like another name for statistics." Okay, and others would say data science is distinct from statistics because it focuses on problems and techniques using digital data. Um, some say, this and that. Um, I would say data science is kind of a branch of statistics in that it is, statistics is overall trying to ex broadly extract information from data. But I would say data science is kind of a distinct kind of subfield because it's dealing with large data sets. And so if you kind of look at the history, when statistics was first emerging as a field of statistics, as a field of study, it came at a time when data was relatively scarce and also expensive to collect. Okay. So if we look at some of the kind of the founders statistics like Galton and Pearson and Fisher and things like that, they came up with some really clever and ingenious methods that allowed them to maximize the kind of information they could extract from the least amount of data. Okay. And these methods are still important in contexts where collecting data is difficult and expensive. So, for example, an early method of data of statistics was applied in the context of agriculture, and they were trying to figure out, what combination of, say, fertilizer and different kind of uh, I don't know, agricultural methods yielded the most amount of kind of produce, okay, or yield, when growing crops and things like that. And so it would take like an entire year, from kind of planting to harvest to collect that a single piece of data, right? So I think, there's kind of a picture of a field where they divided it into, 25 little subplots where each of them had kind of a different combination of settings. And after a kind of a year of tending to those crops and things like that, that yielded 25 data points. Okay. So it was really expensive to kind of get just those 25 data points. And so they had methods to say, like, this is how we can maximize the information we get from these 25 data points, which were really kind of expensive to collect. Okay. And these data sets, with 25 data points, they're small enough where you could do the calculations by hand. And really that was all that was available at that time, right? They didn't have calculators, they didn't have computers and things like that. Okay. And some of these methods that were developed then are still used today. So for example, in say if you work in the medical field and you're doing like cancer research, okay, you might have a patient and you are trying out some new experimental medication or something like that, and it might cost thousands and thousands of dollars per participant, okay? Because, first of all, that medication might be very expensive, all right, to develop. And plus, you also have to pay highly skilled nurses and doctors and researchers, their salary during that time of research where, they're spending time collecting the data, treating the patient, things like that. Their supplies, medical equipment is just really expensive. And so, one data point might represent thousands of dollars, and you might get a research grant from the government, a couple $1 million, but that might yield, say, 100 data points in total. Okay. And so you want to be able to maximize the amount of information you can get just from that limited amount of data. And we have a class at UCLA that focuses on some of these classical methods, Statistics 101B, Design and Analysis of Experiments, is all about kind of designing your study or your experiment so that you can maximize the amount of information you can get from a small sample. One of the goals is to try to get, as small of a sample as you can, because basically every data point is very expensive to collect, but have it still be be large enough where you can still get important kind of conclusions. So that's an important kind of field, and it's still being used, especially in contexts where data is expensive. But on the other hand, we also kind of live in this time where we have so much data available. Okay. So, anytime you have a website that's just collecting information about visitors to the website, you're just generating streams and streams and streams, tons of data, thousands of gigabytes of data of just people visiting, what they clicked, what they did, how much time they spent on things like that. Okay. And so these data sets are now just too big to do any, work by hand. Okay. You've got like millions of rows. So we have to use computers. And so for these modern methods, we need computers and we need to be able to interact with the computer and we need to be able to code. So there's going to be a lot of coding in this class. This is, I think, one of the, I guess, pieces of feedback that I get is students will say, I didn't realize there was going to be so much coding. And that is because that's really the only way we can interact with these large data sets, is that we can't really interact with the data sets efficiently if we try to do it by hand or any kind of method that doesn't involve a computer and a little bit of code. Okay. A lot of times we are not dealing with random samples, which is kind of a big thing in kind of traditional statistics methods and things like that. And so and then another thing is that in traditional statistics, we were trying to understand like the relationships between different variables or aspects of the data. And in kind of our modern methods with looking at lots of data, is we just want to be able to make good predictions about stuff. So I would say that that's one of the ways data science differs from statistics, is that we're dealing with, these really big data sets versus kind of smaller ones. Um, One could argue that data science as a field of study consists of, these different aspects. We have kind of the ability to coding skills, along with math and statistics knowledge and domain expertise. And so this is a Venn diagram that kind of is used to kind of explain what data science is, because that's a thing. It's still a relatively newer field of study. And so if somebody asks, "Hey, what exactly is data science?" You might want to say, it's we're trying to extract information from data, and it requires us to um, be able to code. It requires us to understand math and statistics, and it requires you to be knowledgeable in, whatever domain of that you're working with. Okay. And so as far as the statistics major, data science major, data theory major, we're able to give you kind of these top two things, the coding and the math and stats knowledge. Okay. The Venn diagram here says hacking skills, but I would say it's the ability to code and interact with the computer. And then your math and stats knowledge is going to form kind of your foundational understanding. Now, as the statistics major, data theory major, we are not able to give you the substantive expertise. What this means is um, data is going to be coming from some particular domain, some kind of particular area of the world, and you need to be knowledgeable of that. So if you're dealing with sports data, you have to be knowledgeable in sports, right? Like if you don't know anything about baseball, you're not going to be able to make sense out of baseball data. Okay. If you're dealing with kind of like healthcare stuff, so, I don't know, let's say you're dealing with patients with, uh, like you're looking at kidney patient data or something. If you don't know anything about kidneys and patients and that kind of aspect of medicine, you're not going to be able to make sense of the data. Okay. So you need to know something about that particular piece of information. All right. If you're getting data from a particular country or things like that, you should know something about that particular country. So you need to have that subject matter expertise. And obviously, there's too many subjects out there that we can't give you expertise in everything, every single thing of the world. So this is something you're going to have to kind of gain on your own. But as teachers in the statistics and data science department, we can give you this math and stats knowledge, and we can also give you some of the coding skills necessary. Okay. The overlap of all three, we might consider data science. Without the substantive expertise, you might have machine learning. Without the coding skills, if the math, stats knowledge, and substantive expertise, that might fall under traditional research. Um, and then if you don't have the math, stats knowledge, and you have the coding things, and you just try to apply things, this is the danger zone. This is basically you're just throwing algorithms and stuff, hoping something comes out, but not really knowing if that's the proper thing to do. Okay. Um, some of you are data theory majors. Okay. Data theory is a major that combines the math major along with the statistics and data science major. As the name suggests, data theory gives a very strong foundation in the theoretical mathematics behind a lot of important concepts and just theoretic math like analysis and things like that. And certainly you do get some mathematical theory in the statistics and data science major, But as far as the data theory major goes, there's a lot more kind of theoretic math and things like that. If you are pursuing graduate school and you're thinking about going to graduate school in statistics or data science, I highly recommend that you take some theoretic math courses. The data theory major is a good way to do that. But if you're not a data theory major, you don't have to suddenly switch to become data theory. But I do strongly recommend that you do take some theoretic math courses like real analysis that will give you um, uh, that mathematical foundation that will be important in, say, graduate school. And if you're not planning on going to graduate school, then don't sweat it. Okay. How is this class different from, say, an introductory statistics course? Okay. So introductory statistics like Stats 10 or even AP statistics generally take a traditional and classical approach for probability and statistics. You start talking about like with summary statistics and probability rules and distributions and things like that. Um, there's a big assumption that you're dealing with a random sample drawn from some kind of population. Whereas in this class, I would say it's more intense than say Stats 10. There's certainly a lot more coding because we're dealing with, bigger data sets. We do cover a lot of the topics from Stats 10, but we take a very kind of data-centric approach, and we'll focus a lot on the different aspects of analyzing the data, like visualizations, summary, modeling your data, and things like that. And yeah, we're not always dealing with random data. Let me give you your second view quiz answer. So again, instead of attendance, um, I please respond to the view quiz. And so your second answer today is the letter C, C as in cat, C as in cat. Okay. Um, okay. There's other courses that you might take, or maybe you've already taken them. You have Stats 20. Stats 20 is an introduction to R programming. And this class will involve a lot of coding in R, but it's different from programming. So programming will involve things like, writing your own functions and, creating loops and things like that. And I will talk about certain aspects of code, but this will primarily be with the objective of being able to analyze and interpret the data, because that is how we interact with the data on the computer. But it's going to be focused mostly on how do you get that task done rather than I would say programming. There's a lot of kind of problem solving in terms of how do you solve this problem? How do you do this with a limited set of tools? 102A is another course in the computational statistics series, and that deals a little bit more with higher level, intermediate level topics in R programming. Naturally, there will be a little bit of overlap between, say, this course and Stats 20, but this class, I would say, is an introduction and focuses more on using R as a tool um, to draw meaning from the data rather than on, how do we uh, program, write programs in R. Okay. But certainly there is coding. Okay. Another question is why do we use R and not Python? Python is another popular language for data science. And I am a big fan of Python. I teach Stats 21, which is a course, introductory course in Python, and I like that as well. But but I would say Python is what we call a general purpose language. There's a joke that says Python is the second best language at everything. And it's a joke, but it's kind of true in that it's a bit of a jack of all trades language. There's so many things you can do with Python. There's all kinds of packages and libraries and modules that extend the functionality of Python, and you just say import this and that, and you can suddenly do all kinds of really neat stuff. But it is not going to be the most efficient language. It's just a really great general purpose language. And I would say R as far as data analysis goes, is still the best language for data analysis and things like that. And so I'm a big fan of R, especially if you use the extended version of R using the tidyverse. It is very, very capable of summarizing and analyzing your data and visualizing it. In my opinion, it's very good. But yeah, there's as far as a general purpose language goes, R is not that. If you try to, you know, create some kind of interactive website with R or something, it's certainly not going to be as good. But as far as analyzing data, I would say R is hard to beat, so it's very good. Okay, and I'm gonna have the TA show you how to download and install R. We're gonna extend R by downloading and installing RStudio and the tidyverse, and I'll show you how to kind of interact with all of that. Okay. And I will also, again, please make sure your email addresses on Brew and Learn and MyUCLA are correct because I will send out invitations to Data Camp, which will at least also show you some kind of beginner stuff as far as interacting with R. Now, I want to talk a little bit about academic integrity and plagiarism, and this is not like a super fun topic to talk about, but um, I have to address it, okay? Because the truth is, whatever homework assignment I give to you, anything I give to you, there is a lot of kind of high quality code that's already out there. Also, AI tools like ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot. There's lots of things out there where you can probably just copy and paste my question, the homework question, put it in there, and it will give you the answer. Okay. Um, and if your goal is just to get the task done, if your goal is just to get the homework done, it makes sense to use a tool like that. Okay. Once you're working, and your boss says, "Hey, we need to get this done," I think you should be using AI tools. Okay. I attend conferences just to kind of see what's happening out in industry and basically everybody is using AI. It is a tool. It is here to stay. It is companies are investing tons and tons of money into it, and it is getting stronger and better. Um, and and I'm not worried about it replacing jobs. I don't think we are going to like suddenly have all of our jobs disappear, but people are using it to enhance their capability. Okay. They are using it to leverage their own kind of what they're able to do and able to kind of extend what they're able to do by using AI as a tool. Now, so I think, once you're working, you you can use it or you should use it. You're probably at a disadvantage if you're not using it. Okay. But there is a big difference with having a job and taking this course. Okay. In this course, the goal is not to just get the task done. The goal is not just to have your homework done. The goal is to learn. The homework is here. I assign homework not because I need this problem solved or because I need a task done, but because the homework is intended to be an exercise for you to learn. I like to compare it to going to the gym or, practicing an instrument or something like that. Okay. If you think about going to the gym and you think about people lifting weights, the goal is not that weights get lifted up off the ground. Okay. The reason why people lift weights at the gym is that the process of lifting the weights off the ground provides exercise and will cause the weight lifter to gain strength. That is the goal. The goal is for the person to gain strength. And it is the process of lifting the weights that will cause the person to gain strength. It is not the goal is not getting the weights picked up off the ground. Okay. And there's this concept of no pain, no gain. If your weight training doesn't result in a little bit of muscle soreness or tiredness, you probably didn't work hard enough. Okay. Um, Being tired after a workout is a good sign because it means you pushed yourself and then your body will go through repairs and come back stronger. And similarly, if you do not push your brain to be a little bit tired after thinking and working, you're probably not working it hard enough. Okay. And if you're not working it hard enough, your brain is not going to say, like, oh, we need to form new neuron connections. We need to learn something new. Um, but when you kind of go through that process of doing the homework and struggling with the homework, and you say, man, this is kind of tough, and I got to think really hard about how to do this, your brain's going to say, man, that was tiring. Can we make this any easier in the future? And it forms new kind of connections, new neuron connections in your brain. And then yeah, when you sleep and things like that, those connections form and you get better, and that's how you learn. All right. And and so when you plagiarize, when you copy code, or if you ask the AI to answer the question for you, it's kind of like going to the gym and having someone else lift the weights for you. You say, "Oh man, these weights are heavy. Excuse me, you are a strong person. Can you lift these weights for me?" And if the goal is having the is to pick up the weights, then that makes sense. Okay. But again, going to the gym, the goal is not to pick up the weights, but rather to gain strength. All right. Um, I went through a move recently and yeah, in that case, the goal is just to have the furniture moved. I'm not trying to get stronger by moving furniture. I just want the furniture moved. So I paid somebody and I said, "Excuse me, um, I'm going to pay you money. Please pick up the furniture for me." And they did that. And that makes sense. Okay. So if the goal is to get the task done and you're working and things like that, sure, it makes sense to ask the AI for help to get the task done. But here in this class, your goal is to learn. And so doing the homework yourself, that's going to help you learn. Okay. Now, I recognize there's a little bit of a conflict because, we have to evaluate your learning and assign a grade and things like that. Um, but again, keep in mind the goal is your learning. All right. And ask uh, if you ask the computer to kind of answer the questions for you, you are missing out on that learning opportunity. So, go to the gym, lift the weights yourself, take the homework, do the problems yourself. Okay. So when you face a tough homework problem, I want you to work hard. And, if you're not able to complete it to 100%, turn in what you have. If you didn't complete it to 100%, you're not going to get 100% on the grade. But that is not a failure on your part, okay? It is an indication of areas where you can grow and learn more, okay? Um, I'm gonna post a collaboration policy. The collaboration policy is basically I'm gonna do the homework that you do the homework on your own. You're not copying someone else's code. You're not using an AI to answer your code for you. Obviously, you can talk to classmates and you can talk about how to solve it, but I just don't want you guys showing each other your code or writing each other's assignments for you. Okay. Um, I like to I might go a tiny bit over time, but I like to also talk about grades in life. And this is a little bit of a silly thing. And I do this at the start of every single one of my classes. Um, but I want you to hear me out. This is, I think, one of the more important lessons I can give you. Okay. And one is your grades do not define you. Okay. You're here at UCLA. And it is tough to get into UCLA. UCLA is an elite school. The admission rate is like lower than 10%. It's really tough to get in, okay? And you got in because you had good grades. You got in because you worked hard in high school or community college. You had good grades. You got in, okay? And that is great, all right? And so much of your time and energy is put into school and your classes. And so grades feel really, really important. But that said, your grades do not define you. Okay. And I get it. I was that student too. I liked getting good grades. I liked working hard. It feels good to get good grades. And certainly grades do play a role in like grad school admissions and things like that, but still they're not the most important thing in life. And once you're done with school and graduated and moved on and working, nobody cares anymore about your GPA. All right? That's kind of the sad thing is that all of this energy and effort you put into your GPA now, it feels good when you get good grades, but you know, in a decade, no one's going to be comparing GPAs, okay? It's not even something you list on your on your resume once you've been working for several years, okay? The other thing that I think is important is finding a good work-life balance. And this is might be something that you're going to struggle with or deal with for the rest of your life. And I would say, broadly speaking, there are three general categories where we can put our time and energy. We can put our time and energy into work, our relationships, or ourself. Work includes things like your school and your studies right now, but also jobs and internships that you might have, any other kind of professional obligations. Relationships are basically relationships with friends and family, a romantic relationship, any other kind of community or other relationships that you're part of. And then also taking care of yourself, taking care of your physical health, eating well, sleeping, exercising, taking care of your mental health, having fun, and things that cause you to enjoy life, right? And getting good sleep and, spiritual health if you're are spiritual or religious, things like that. And the truth is that all of us, we only have 24 hours in a day. And you cannot give 100% to every single one of these categories. You have to kind of divvy up your time accordingly. And the general kind of rule is that the more you put into one of those categories, the more you're going to get out of that. Okay. The more you put in, the more you're going to get out. And the less you put in, the flip side of that is the less time and energy you put into something, you're going to get less out of that thing. And I believe work-life balance can be achieved by you consciously choosing what is important to you and then balancing, dedicating your time and energies accordingly. And if you can accept the natural consequences of what happens when you put less time and energy into something, and accepting that you're going to get less out of that thing, I think you can have work-life balance and be satisfied by saying, hey, I'm choosing to put less time and energy into this thing, and I am okay with the natural consequence of this aspect of my life not flourishing. Okay. Just kind of a silly example, but I've seen it happen enough, is that, you might have a friend group, right? You might be a part of a group of friends. And then one day you get involved in a romantic relationship. And so now you're spending a lot of time with your romantic partner, and that aspect of your life is flourishing. You're putting a lot of time and energy into your romantic partner. You're getting closer to that person, and that part of your life is growing. But the flip side is now you're spending less time with your original group of friends. And so the natural thing that happens is you're not as close to your original group of friends as you used to be. And that might come to a point where one day those friends go off and they do something and they don't invite you. All right. And that could feel hurtful when that happens. But I don't think it's necessarily like they're trying to get revenge or there's malicious intent, but that's just the natural thing that happens when you're spending less time um, with a certain group of people, you're not going to be as close as you used to be. Okay. And this is kind of what's happened in my own life. I'm in my 40s now, and I have a spouse and I have children, and I spend a lot of time um, with my family and investing in my kids and my spouse. And I don't have as much time as I used to watch movies or go to sporting events with my friends like I did when I was in my 20s. And the bottom line is I'm not as close to my friends as I used to be. There's no bad blood, still on good terms, and when we see each other, we're still happy to see. I'm happy to see my friends. They're happy to see me. But yeah, we're not as involved in each other's lives as I used to be. I don't know all of the fine details of their life. Sometimes we talk on the phone and things like that, but just I'm not as close as I used to be, and that's okay. I'm happy with the decisions I've made. I'm happy with the relationships I have. I'm happy with how I'm spending my time. But yeah, I don't have as much time as I used to hang out with friends, and I'm just not as close as I used to be. And similarly, this can be extended, and I know I'm going over my time, but this can be extended to, professional things, when you're working, you might have to face a decision. Do I spend all of my extra time at work so I can kind of make advances in my career? And that part of your life might flourish, but that might mean other aspects of your life, like your relationships and things like that, might not flourish as much. Or perhaps you decide to spend a lot more time on relationships. Okay. Sometimes, maybe you get married or you start a family, and that's going to require a lot of your time and attention, and you don't have as much time to, spend in the office and at work. And the natural thing is someone else might get promoted ahead of you, but you know what? These aspects, the relationship aspects of your life might flourish in that time. So you have to make these choices about what is important to you. You invest your time accordingly, and I think you can find joy and satisfaction there. Okay. Um, Taking care of yourself is important. One of the things I always say is prioritize your physical and mental health. And sometimes that means not doing your homework. Okay. Sometimes that means not studying as much so that you can take care of yourself. And the natural consequence of that, of not studying, is you're not going to perform as well on the exam. The natural consequence of not doing your homework is you're going to lose points on your homework. Okay. But I want you to be at a point where you are okay with these kinds of decisions and say, you know what, in this moment, this aspect of my life is more important than the homework grade. Um, Sometimes that's what it comes down to. Okay. And then the last thing is just be mindful of certain activities. Certain things are just designed to eat up your time. Entertainment is super important. Having fun, doing things that you enjoy is super important. Okay. But certain apps, certain websites, they're just designed to just eat your time so that they can pump more ads in your face and get money that way. And I always like to, the kind of the my threshold of whether something is good for me or not is like basically after I do this activity, do I feel better about life and want it, like it brought me joy and makes me excited to be alive? And if so, that's great. And I think that's something you should invest your time in. But if something just kind of eats your time and then you come back and you're just like, ugh, I feel kind of gross, maybe this isn't something that's good to have in your life. And that includes things just like doom scrolling and reading the news, right? Reading the news is important. You should be informed about the world, but I think it can also be like an escape in that like you just keep reading more and more like terrible news and then you feel awful about the world. And certainly there are lots of things in the world that are wrong that need fixing and that we should be aware of and we should fight for, the fight for good things, but also I don't know. Overall, I think we should also be mindful of how we spend our time. Okay, anyway, thanks for listening to my soapbox about these things. Let me give you your third view quiz answer, which is the letter E. E as an elephant. E as an elephant is our last answer. And again, thanks for your flexibility in meeting online today, or meeting online this week. I hope to see you all in person in week 2, and have a great rest of your day. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a great quarter with you guys. Okay, thank you, everybody.